Imagine you grow up in a happy home, a place filled with love, laughter, and childhood memories. You call them mom and dad. You trust them more than anyone in the world because they raised you. They taught you your first words. They stayed awake when you had a fever. They stood by you when life got tough. Now imagine one ordinary day, a simple medical test turns your whole life upside down. 23-year-old Emily Carter from Ohio lived what seemed like a perfect life. Loving parents, a beautiful house, a supportive family. But when she applied for a scholarship that required medical DNA testing, she received the shock of her life. Her DNA did not match either of her parents, not even close. First, she thought, "It's a mistake. Maybe the lab mixed up the samples." But after multiple tests, the truth became unavoidable. The people she called mom and dad, the people who raised her for 23 years, were not her biological parents. Emily was shattered. Confusion, anger, betrayal, her entire identity questioned, and what followed stunned the entire nation. Emily didn't just walk away quietly. She took a step that very few would dare to take. She filed a lawsuit against the very people who raised her, the ones she called family. The case? Emotional trauma, identity theft, and lifelong deception. Was it a hospital mix-up, a dark family secret, or something even more sinister hiding beneath the surface? The courtroom drama, the media frenzy, and the heartbreaking emotional roller coaster that unfolded left everyone speechless. Because in this case, the truth didn't just break a family, it shattered everything. And by the end, even the judge struggled to hold back tears. But the question remains, what would you do if one DNA test proved your entire life was a lie? If you want to know the shocking truth behind Emily's story and how it tore apart a family and a courtroom, stay with us till the end. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that leave you questioning everything. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most shocking, emotional, and unbelievable real-life stories from across the United States. Today's story is one that will shake your soul. A tale of love, betrayal, courtroom drama, and a young woman fighting for her identity. Emily Carter always believed she was one of the lucky ones. From the moment she opened her eyes to the world, her parents, Michael and Laura Carter, showered her with love. They weren't rich, but their house was filled with something far more precious: care, kindness, and warmth. She still remembers those quiet evenings when her dad would sit on the porch, sipping coffee, while she played with her dolls beside him. Her mom would hum old songs in the kitchen, the smell of fresh cookies filling the house. It wasn't a mansion, but to Emily, it was the safest, happiest place on earth. Birthdays were always special. They may not have had fancy parties like rich families, but every year, her parents decorated the living room with balloons and handmade banners. Her dad would lift her on his shoulders and sing, off-key, but with so much love. And her mom would bake her favorite chocolate cake. Emily's childhood wasn't perfect, but it was filled with moments that made her heart full. She remembered how her dad taught her to ride a bicycle, how many times she fell, scraped her knees, cried, but every time, her dad was right there, holding her hand, saying, "It's okay, baby, I've got you." And when she got sick with a fever, her mom stayed by her bedside all night, wiping her forehead, whispering softly, "Mommy's here, I won't leave you." In high school, when Emily faced bullies or struggled with exams, her parents were her biggest supporters. They encouraged her to believe in herself, to dream big. They told her she was special, that she could achieve anything. They laughed together, they cried together, they were a family. Emily never doubted for a second that Michael and Laura were her real parents. They were her world, her foundation. The people who picked her up when she fell, who taught her how to love, how to be strong, how to be kind. But little did she know, that foundation was built on a secret so deep, so hidden, that it would one day break everything apart. For 23 years, she believed she knew who she was, but all of that was about to change. After finishing high school, Emily had only one dream: to become a doctor. She wanted to help people, just like her mom always told her. "If you can heal even one person, you've made a difference." Her parents supported her dream with everything they had, even though money was tight. Emily worked hard, long nights studying, early mornings filled with books and coffee. She didn't party like other teenagers. She stayed focused, determined to make her parents proud. Their sacrifices weren't lost on her. Every extra hour her dad worked, every penny her mom saved, it all pushed Emily to try harder. Then came the opportunity that could change everything. The prestigious Ohio Future Healers Scholarship, full tuition, living expenses, everything covered for students who wanted to become doctors. It was like a blessing from above. Emily was thrilled. She hugged her parents, her eyes sparkling with hope. "This is it, Mom. Dad, I can finally do it." The scholarship had only one condition: a complete medical screening, including a DNA test. It was routine, they said, to help track hereditary diseases among future medical professionals. Emily didn't think twice. She laughed with her mom. "They're gonna find I've got stubbornness in my DNA. Straight from you." Her parents chuckled, teasing her. "And don't forget your dad's terrible singing voice. Hope that's not genetic." They filled the forms, submitted the samples, and waited. Days turned into weeks. Emily checked her email every morning, her heart pounding with excitement. She imagined herself wearing a white coat, helping patients, making her family proud. Then, one afternoon, an envelope arrived. She rushed to her room, tearing it open, expecting to see her scholarship confirmation. But as her eyes scanned the words on the paper, her smile faded. The letter wasn't about her acceptance. It was a notification saying her DNA test results were inconsistent. It claimed that her genetic markers did not match those of her listed parents, Michael and Laura Carter. Emily's hand shook. Her heart raced. She read the letter again and again, hoping it was a mistake. "What is this? This can't be real," she whispered to herself. Her world, the world built with love, trust, and unshakable belief, suddenly cracked, and she had no idea how deep those cracks would go. Emily sat on her bed, holding the DNA letter in her trembling hand. Her heart was pounding so loud it felt like the whole room could hear it. This must be wrong," she whispered, her voice shaking. She rushed downstairs, the paper crumpled in her fist. Her parents were in the living room, watching TV, laughing softly. Seeing them so calm made Emily's chest tighten. How could life look so normal when everything was falling apart? "Mom, Dad, what is this?" she asked, her voice cracking as she held up the letter. Michael and Laura looked at her, confused. Her mother reached for the paper, her smile slowly fading as she read the words. Her father's eyes narrowed in concern, scanning the page again and again. It's a mistake," Laura finally stammered. "These things happen, Em. The lab probably mixed something up." Emily wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. But deep down, a strange, heavy feeling was growing inside her. Something wasn't right. They decided to take another test. This time, through a private clinic, expensive. But Emily didn't care. She had to know the truth. The following week felt like torture. Emily couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. Every time she looked at her parents, she wondered, what if? Finally, the day came. The results arrived in a sealed envelope. Her hand shook as she opened it, her parents sitting beside her, their faces pale with fear. She scanned the paper, her eyes blurred with tears as the words screamed at her. Probability of parental match, 0%. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heart felt like it stopped. No, this isn't real," she whispered, as hot tears ran down her cheeks. Her parents sat frozen. Michael looked at the report, his face draining of color. Laura's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock, or was it fear? "Emily, we can't explain," her mother started, her voice shaking, but Emily couldn't hear her. The words, the numbers, the cold, undeniable truth stared back at her. The people she loved most, the ones who raised her, weren't her biological parents. And in that moment, Emily felt her entire life collapse like a house of cards, leaving behind only confusion, heartbreak, and unanswered questions. Emily stood in the living room, the DNA report still shaking in her hand. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. The silence in the house was heavy, so heavy it felt like the walls themselves were listening. Her parents, Michael and Laura, sat on the couch, both looking broken. They tried to speak, but no words came out. Only their frightened, guilty eyes spoke 1,000 unspoken truths. Finally, Emily's voice broke the silence. It wasn't loud, but it was full of pain. "Why?" her voice cracked. "Why did you lie to me my whole life?" Laura's eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Emily, we never wanted to hurt you." Emily shook her head, taking a step back. "I'm not your daughter. That's what this paper says." She held up the report, her hands trembling. "All these years, all those birthdays, all those I love yous, were they lies?" Michael finally stood up, his eyes glistening with tears. "No, Em, never. You are our daughter. You've always been. Our little girl. Then why doesn't my DNA match yours? Emily's voice rose, breaking into sobs. Why did you hide this from me? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Laura couldn't hold back anymore. She covered her face, sobbing softly. Michael wrapped his arm around her, his face filled with helplessness. Emily had never seen her strong father look so small. Through her tears, Laura finally spoke, her voice shaking like a leaf in the wind. We didn't know. Not at first. But when you were a baby, we found out at the hospital there had been a mistake. Emily's heart skipped a beat. What mistake? Her voice was barely a whisper now. The hospital. They switched the babies. Laura sobbed. We didn't know for weeks, but by the time we found out, we already loved you. You were ours, no matter what. Emily stared at them, her chest tight with anger, pain, and confusion. She felt like the ground beneath her feet had disappeared. Everything she thought was true was now tangled in lies and hidden secrets. You should have told me, she whispered, wiping her tears. I deserve to know who I really am. Michael stepped closer, his voice breaking. We were scared. Scared to lose you. Scared to break your heart. Emily shook her head, stepping away. Her parents' words echoed in the room, but so did the pain in her heart. For the first time in her life, she didn't know where she truly belonged. Days turned into weeks, but Emily couldn't find peace. The house that once felt warm and safe now felt cold, full of hidden truths and broken trust. She couldn't eat properly. She couldn't sleep. Every time she looked at her parents, her heart filled with anger, sadness, and confusion. Her mind kept repeating the same question. If they truly loved me, why did they lie for so long? Emily's friends noticed the change in her. She stopped smiling. She avoided everyone. The girl who once dreamed of becoming a doctor now looked lost, like a piece of her soul had been stolen. But the pain wasn't just emotional, it was legal too. When the news of the DNA mix-up and the hidden truth came out, Emily's lawyer friend suggested something Emily had never thought of before. A lawsuit. At first, Emily refused. I can't. They're my parents. No matter what, she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. But the more she thought about it, the more the anger inside her grew. She didn't just lose her identity. She lost 23 years of truth. Her real biological family, her medical history, her roots, all kept hidden from her. It wasn't just a small mistake. It was her entire life. And the hospital, the place where this nightmare started, they were silent, hiding behind closed doors and lawyers. With a heavy heart and shaky hands, Emily signed the legal papers. She wasn't just suing the hospital. She was also filing a case against her own parents for emotional trauma, mental suffering, and deception. The news spread like wildfire. Daughter sues parents after DNA shock, screamed the headline. Reporters camped outside her house. Cameras flashed. Microphones were pushed in her face. The quiet, simple life Emily once knew was gone forever. Some people supported her, saying she was brave for standing up for the truth. Others called her heartless for taking her own parents to court. But Emily, she was stuck in the middle, torn between love and betrayal, between family and justice. The courtroom awaited, and with every step, Emily knew this wasn't just a legal fight. It was a fight for her identity, for the truth, and for the pieces of herself that were shattered the day the DNA results came in. The day Emily walked into the courtroom, her heart was heavy with fear and sadness. She never imagined that one day, she would be sitting across from the people who raised her, not as their daughter, but as the girl who was demanding the truth. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, strangers, lawyers, all watching. But Emily only cared about one thing, the truth that had been hidden from her for 23 long years. The trial started, and slowly, dark secrets began to come out. Secrets that no one was prepared for. First, the hospital records were presented. Documents that showed there had been a mix-up in the maternity ward the night Emily was born. 2 baby girls, both placed in the wrong families. It wasn't just a small mistake. It was a life-changing disaster. But then, another shocking truth was revealed. The hospital had discovered the mistake weeks after the babies went home. But instead of informing the families, they covered it up. They were afraid of lawsuits, of ruining their reputation. So, they stayed silent, burying the truth, while 2 families lived with the wrong child, unknowingly. Emily's heart shattered all over again. But that wasn't all. Laura, Emily's mother, was called to the witness stand. With shaking hands and tears streaming down her face, she admitted something Emily had never expected to hear. We found out when Emily was just 2 months old, Laura confessed, her voice breaking. The hospital told us, but by then, we had already fallen in love with her. She was our baby. We couldn't give her away. Emily's eyes filled with tears, her chest tightened. So you knew all these years You knew I wasn't yours, and you never told me, she whispered under her breath. Michael lowered his head, unable to meet her eyes. The courtroom was silent, the weight of their hidden truth hanging in the air like a heavy storm cloud. Emily felt betrayed, not only by the hospital, but by the very people she trusted most. The secrets that had been buried for over 2 decades were finally in the open, and now nothing could ever be the same again. The courtroom was no longer just a place for justice. It had become a battlefield of emotions, tears, and broken hearts. Every day, Emily walked into that big wooden door, her stomach in knots, knowing her private pain was now public. Reporters filled the seats in the back. Their cameras clicked as soon as she entered. Bright flashes blinded her eyes. Microphones followed her every step. It felt like she wasn't living her life anymore. She was stuck in a movie, a heartbreaking, painful movie with no way to escape. Outside the courthouse, news vans lined the street. Television screens showed her face. Headlines screamed her story to the whole world. Daughter sues parents after DNA shocker. Baby switch scandal. Family torn apart. Emily never wanted fame, but now everyone knew her name. Strangers on the street whispered when she passed. Some people called her brave. Others called her ungrateful. But none of them understood the storm inside her heart. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Lawyers argued back and forth. Evidence was shown. DNA reports, hospital records, legal documents. But the most painful evidence were the tears in her parents' eyes. Laura cried silently, her hands twisting together, her face full of regret. Michael looked tired, older than Emily remembered. His shoulders slumped like the weight of the world was crushing him. Emily tried to stay strong, but hearing their voices, seeing their faces, it broke her from the inside. The judge listened carefully. His eyes softened as he looked at Emily, understanding the pain behind her decision. This wasn't just about money or legal papers. This was about identity, truth, and betrayal. The media outside made it worse. They spun the story in every direction. Some news channels called Emily a hero, fighting for justice. Others painted her as a selfish daughter, destroying her family. But only Emily knew the real pain, the sleepless nights, the endless questions, the hole in her heart that no camera could ever capture. This courtroom wasn't just about laws. It was where a family's deepest secrets, regrets, and shattered love were being laid bare for the whole world to see. The final day of the trial had arrived. The courtroom was filled with heavy silence. Every seat was taken. Reporters, strangers, even people from the neighborhood had come, all waiting to hear what the judge would say. Emily sat at her table, her hands cold and shaky. Her heart was pounding so loudly, she thought everyone could hear it. Across the room, her parents sat quietly. Laura's eyes were red from crying. Michael looked pale, tired, broken. The judge entered the room, his face serious, his eyes tired from weeks of listening to this painful case. Everyone stood up, and then the moment of truth began. The judge spoke slowly, carefully. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of broken hearts and hidden lies. He declared that the hospital was responsible for the baby switch. Their mistake had stolen 23 years of truth from not one, but 2 families. The hospital was ordered to pay millions in damages for the pain, suffering, and loss Emily and her biological family had faced. The courtroom was quiet, everyone listening carefully, hanging on to every word. But then came the part that cut through Emily's heart like a knife. The judge said that while her parents, Michael and Laura, had made mistakes by hiding the truth, they had not committed a crime. Their decision to keep her, to love her as their own, no matter the truth, was not illegal. But yes, it was a betrayal. Emily's eyes filled with tears. A part of her had wanted justice, but hearing those words, she realized justice doesn't always heal the pain. The verdict was done, but there were no winners. The hospital tried to apologize, but no amount of money could fix what had been broken. Her parents tried to look at her, their eyes begging for forgiveness, but Emily couldn't meet their gaze. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but Emily felt numb. The noise, the people, the cameras, none of it mattered now. All that mattered was that her life, her family, her identity would never be the same again. Even with the truth out, the damage was done. Emily had fought for answers, but she had lost the only home, the only parents, the only world she had ever known. It's been almost 2 years since the court case ended, but for Emily, the pain still feels fresh. Some days, she wakes up and wonders, was it all just a bad dream? But then, the silence in her parents' house, the distance between them, reminds her that it was all real. After the trial, Emily moved out of her family home. The place that once felt safe and full of love now felt cold, like a stranger's house. Every corner reminded her of the secrets, the lies, and the truth that changed everything. She rented a small apartment in a nearby town. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. A place where she could breathe, think, and heal at her own pace. The biggest change came when she finally met her biological parents. It wasn't easy. The first meeting was full of awkward silences and teary eyes. They hugged her gently, their voices trembling as they said, "We've missed 23 years of your life, and we can never get that time back." Emily wanted to feel a connection, but it wasn't instant. These were strangers, yet somehow they shared her blood, her DNA, her story. She visits them sometimes, slowly, carefully. They're trying to build a relationship, but it's complicated. You can't erase decades of separation in just a few visits. As for Michael and Laura, her parents who raised her, they still love her, but the bond is cracked, fragile. They call her, they text her, but Emily needs time. Time to forgive. Time to heal. She continues her studies. The scholarship didn't work out, but Emily is determined. She still wants to help people, to become a doctor, to make sense of the broken pieces of her life. Therapy has helped. Talking to counselors, writing her thoughts down. Slowly, she's trying to rebuild herself, but deep inside, there's a part of Emily that still feels lost, like a puzzle with missing pieces. Some nights, she looks in the mirror and asks herself, who am I really? And though the answer isn't clear yet, Emily knows one thing. She may be broken, but she's not giving up. She's still standing, still searching, still hoping. Even though the court case ended, even though the truth came out, the questions never really stopped. Emily asks herself those questions almost every day. What if the hospital had never made that mistake? Would she be living with her real biological parents? A completely different life? Would she even know Michael and Laura? Would her childhood memories be with strangers instead? Or what if her parents had told her the truth earlier? Would she have understood? Could they have faced it together as a family, without so much pain and anger? Or would it have hurt just as much? These questions keep spinning in her mind, like a storm that never ends. Her parents have their own questions too. Michael often sits in silence, staring at old family photos, wondering if keeping the secret was the biggest mistake of his life, or the only way to protect his little girl. Laura lies awake at night, replaying every moment. Emily's first steps, her first words, her school graduation, wondering if all those moments were built on love or lies. The biological parents, they have questions too. What would Emily have been like if they had raised her? Would she have their habits, their traditions, their life? And then there are the strangers, the world watching from the outside. People still argue on social media. Was Emily right to sue? Was she brave or ungrateful? Should love matter more than DNA? Or does the truth always deserve to come out, no matter the cost? But the hardest part is that there are no simple answers. Love, family, truth, they're never black and white. And sometimes the truth that sets you free also breaks your heart. For Emily, for her parents, for everyone involved, those haunting questions will always remain. They may learn to live with the pain. They may find peace, little by little, but the scars, they will never completely fade. And in quiet moments, when the world goes still, those unanswered questions will whisper in their hearts forever. And so, this is not just Emily's story. It's a story that makes all of us stop and think. It reminds us that sometimes life gives us answers we never asked for, truths that shake the ground beneath our feet, and questions that may never be fully answered. But no matter how broken we feel, no matter how painful the truth may be, we still have the choice to stand up, to heal, and to find our own path. Because family is not always about blood. It's about love, trust, and the courage to face even the darkest truths. Thank you for staying with us till the end of this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart or made you question how fragile life really is, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you such real, emotional stories from across the world. Stories that remind us all that life is not always simple. But in the end, it's the truth and how we face it that truly defines us. Take care, and we'll see you in the next story.